Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. To begin, Happy New Year to everyone. So today I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to be revealing my 2025 grid predictions. So I'm going to start off with the people that I think is very obvious. Who has the long contract, who is staying. So to begin with, we're going to go for Mercedes. Now, both Lewis and George have a contract to 2025. To 2025? Till 2025. I think they're both staying. There's no reason for them not to. I think they're both doing good enough. You know, maybe if they have a better car next year, maybe if they have a better car in 2025, Lewis and George will be higher up in the standings. To be fair, Lewis ended up, I think it was third this year. So it really wasn't that bad of a season for him anyway. But yeah, I think Mercedes, they are staying exactly the same. Next, I'm going to McLaren. Now, Oscar has a contract till 2026, Lando till 2025. And I don't think there's any reason to break that contract. I think they are going to stay like that because realistically, I think Oscar and Lando are a very good pair. They're both quite young. They're both quite strong. I think that it's going to be a pair that McLaren have done very, very well with. I think they're going to last quite a while. They're going to do really well. I just think that they're a team that are going to go far with those two drivers. I think those two are going to do very well for the team, and I think they're going to be a big part of McLaren climbing up through the field. Next up, I'm going to go for Alpine. Now, I know that I have seen that some people are questioning whether Alpine will stay the same. A few people don't actually, however, I do. So, both Esteban and Pierre have a contract till 2024. I personally think that's going to be extended. I think it's a French team, two French drivers. Now, I do understand that there has been this past drama between Esteban and Pierre, but honestly, unless there is some huge rift between them, a big scene, I don't see the need for them to change that. I think they're both very on par with each other. Maybe one of them has a slight edge to the other, but overall I think they're very much on par, and I think that if there's no big issues in between both of them, they could be a very good team up. I think they could keep Alpine up there in the middle field. Now, next up, we're gonna go for Aston Martin. So obviously Lance Stroll is most likely to stay. Realistically, unless he has the worst season of mankind, I don't think he's losing his seat. Very obvious reasons. And that's not just the only reason. I think that a lot of people do look down on Lance because he is a pay driver. But at the end of the day, I honestly don't think he is as bad as people say he is. Like, obviously, there are moments where he does something, it's a little bit silly, but at the end of the day, every driver on this list has done something like that, and I think he gets hated on a bit too much just because he's a pay driver. Like, he's not going to be perfect. So I think he is staying. And I also think Fernando Alonso is staying. His contract ends in 2025. However, it doesn't end in 2025. So his contract ends in 2024. However, I do think he is going to renew. I think Aston Martin are going to be quite similar to how they were this season. I think in 2024 they are going to start off quite well, and slowly as the year goes, they're going to get worse and worse, decline just as they did this year. However, I think that Fernando is going to stick by that. I think he's going to renew, but I think he will only renew for 1 year. And I think if 2025 doesn't work out and he does get fed up, then I do think he will either retire or he will try his best to find a different team. I don't think he's lasting past 2025 with Aston Martin, but I think he's at least going to 2025. And if he does end up getting fed up, I think they'll put Felipe Drugovich in there, just because it's an easy person to get up in there. He's in their driver academy. Realistically, it's the cleanest swap that they can do. Next up, Ferrari. Both Carlos and Charles have a contract that ends in 2024. Now, I went a bit back and forth on this one, but I do think they are both going to get renewed to 2025, just because at the end of the day, as much as Ferrari has their own problems and sometimes the drivers do make a couple of silly mistakes, I do think that it's not bad enough for them to not renew, at least for 2025. I think 2025 it's going to be the same lineup for Ferrari. I think what might happen is closer to 2025, we will see a bit more of whether Carlos is still in the mindset to carry on with Ferrari. I think Charles is a lot more likely, because of all the history he has with the team, to stay, whereas I think Carlos could be slightly more influenced to leave, but I think he will give them at least 2025. Next up, I'm gonna go for Stake F1 team now, as they're calling it. It's a terrible name. I hate it. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. Personally, really not a fan. So a lot of people might, I feel like this is one of the ones that some people are going to agree, some people are gonna absolutely disagree. I have no real knowledge. Worst prediction of all time. I am going to say that Zhou Guanyu gets renewed for 2025. However, I think at the end of 2024, Bottas will retire and he will be replaced with Théo Pourchaire. That is simply because I think Bottas has gotten to a point where F1 is more of a hobby. He seems to be a lot more interested in his pastimes outside of F1. And they're not really in a position where they're even really fighting high up in the midfield. They're kind of just trailing behind the car. So unless the car is really good in 2024, I think at the end of the year, Bottas is just going to call it quits. And so they'll call in Théo Pourchaire. Now, for Zhou Guanyu, the reason that I think he is going to be renewed is because at the end of the day, I don't actually think he's that bad of a driver. I think people don't give him the credit that he deserves. He's a good driver. Like, I honestly think it's just the car that isn't giving him what he needs. Like, I do understand that his F2 season wasn't absolutely incredible, out of this world. Oh my god, he wasn't another Max Verstappen. And I do understand that that was actually a terrible one, because Max Verstappen didn't really do F2, but okay. Completely ignore that reference. He's not another Charles Leclerc, George Russell. There we go. That's probably a better reference. But either way, that's besides the point. I think that he is a decent driver. They're going to keep him at least until the end of 2025. Next up, that was a bit of a tangent. Haas. Now, Hülkenberg and Magnussen both have contracts until the end of 2024. I personally don't think that Magnussen is getting renewed. I think that as much as him and Hülkenberg aren't as far off as people are making it seem, I don't think he is going to stay. Haas are known to drop drivers quite quickly, so I think that unless he manages to get really high up there in 2024, I don't think he's going to get renewed. Hülkenberg, on the other hand, I think is going to get renewed. I think he is going to get a 1-year contract renewal. And as much as it absolutely pains me to say this, Not because of the driver, because I love the driver, but because of the team. I think it will be Ollie Bearman pairing him up in 2025. Now, as much as I would love to see Ollie Bearman in F1, part of me does wish that this does not come true and that this ends up being a terrible prediction, because I feel like Ollie Bearman in a Haas will make me quite sad. They're not exactly the team known for being very lenient or making great rookie drivers, you know, as we saw with Nick. Next up, we have Williams. Now, I have decided to go for someone that wasn't actually in my who is getting the 2024 Williams seat. So, to begin with, I have said that I think Alex is going to get renewed. I honestly think that Alex is a big part of moving that team forward. Everything he's already done for that team is incredible. He's had a wonderful season this year. So, yeah, I think there's no reason to not renew him for 2025. Like, his contract ends in 2024. But realistically, like, he's done so well for that team. I don't see them coming up without him. So, I honestly think it would be a terrible decision to drop him. Now, alongside him, I've decided to go for Frederik Vesti. Now, that is because I honestly don't think there's gonna be another way for him into F1. Now, I know that there are a lot of other drivers that people would put in F1 ahead of Vesti. However, I do think it is actually quite likely for him to enter F1 through Williams if Logan doesn't get better in 2024. Now, onto the juicy ones. Red Bull and AlphaTauri. Now, I left these to last because I feel like they're the ones that is going to cause a lot more indecision between a lot of fans. So, the thing is, Sergio Perez's contract ends in 2024. So that is something that making these predictions needs to be kept in mind. So what I've decided is that obviously Max is going to stay at Red Bull. However, I have paired him with Daniel Ricciardo rather than Sergio Perez. Now, I know that a lot of people are going to say that that is the fangirl in me, that there's absolutely no way that Daniel is getting back into that Red Bull seat. However, as a lot of you have seen, Christian Horner loves Daniel. And not only that, but I think if Daniel manages to prove himself against Yuki in the AlphaTauri, and if Sergio doesn't step up his game, there's no reason for them not to move Daniel up. Like, both Daniel's and Sergio's contracts end in 2024. So, if you're gonna do a swap, might as well be for 2025. And lastly, but not least, AlphaTauri. Now, there are quite a few people that I think could actually go into this team, including Sergio Perez. However, I have not put Sergio Perez in AlphaTauri. I do think that he is going to have no seat for 2025. In AlphaTauri, I've put Liam Lawson, which I feel like it's quite an obvious choice. You know, Liam Lawson did amazing in that AlphaTauri during the time that he was there. Now, next to him, I think is going to very much depend on Yuki's 2024 season. I think if he is close enough to Daniel, or if he even beats Daniel, he will be in that AlphaTauri seat. However, I think if his season doesn't go as well as everyone wants it to, he is going to be replaced. And I think he is going to be replaced by Ayumu Iwasa. I think that is someone that realistically could replace Yuki if Yuki doesn't do well. I personally hope that Yuki does do well this year because I quite like having him in that seat. And I do think it would be sad to see him go. But if we did see him go, I do think it would be Iwasa to replace him. However, I'm keeping hopes up that 2025 will be Yuki and Liam. Anyway, those are my predictions for the 2025 grid. I will be posting a 2024 season prediction, like the whole season, who I think is going to be champion, what teams I think are going to absolutely suck, which ones are going to improve, all of that. I'm thinking of posting that just after pre-season testing, just because it'll give like a little bit of an idea on where teams may be. It could be that it ends up tricking me completely and my prediction goes all wrong, but I am thinking of using it as a bit of an indicator for the predictions. So I hope to see you in that video. That is the end of the video. I really hope you enjoyed. I will be posting another video in about a week or so watch out for that. And yeah, I hope you guys had a great Christmas and a great New Year's, and I'll see you next time. Bye.